So basically the point of all this is to remind you and reinforce the idea that you can trust your intuition, and that in many situations you'll make a better decision if you don't think about it so much, because your conscious mind won't be interfering with your subconscious processes. And if you give your subconscious mind enough time, if you give it space and you give it a way to sort of reach its own decision, which admittedly, yes, you don't know how it's doing that, but it finds a way to do that, it's going to give you very good information, very accurate information. And in the resonant viewing process, we find it can be incredibly accurate to view distant people, places, locations, and so forth without, the conscious mind interfering. It just simply knows how to do this, and even though we don't know exactly how it's doing it, in the end it does seem to be able to do this. Now, one of the things that I think is very interesting is that, in our bodies we have a lot of crystalline materials. We have a lot of silica in our bodies. By some counts, recently I've heard 10 times as much silica as iron. And we know from research, that crystals actually serve to change frequencies. If you've seen some of my other videos and lectures, we've talked about crystals before. Crystals change energy from one frequency to another, and that's what our bodies are doing all the time, even subconsciously, transferring and focusing information from other frequencies, even though our conscious mind is not aware of this, into frequencies that we can perceive and understand. So we don't exactly understand how the process works, but we can see that the net result is that we actually act like crystals, and we're actually more like liquid crystals because we, we're fluid. We're mostly water, and so the crystals in our body are kind of floating around, and so in a sense our whole body acts like a liquid crystal. And the net result is that because of our shape, we resonate with particular frequencies of energy and information, patterns of light or patterns of sound allow us to actually do a lot of things that we don't think we can do. And as I mentioned before, when you start the resonant viewing process, what happens is you end up spontaneously perceiving information from things at a distance, and you don't know how you're doing it. We know, part of the science now shows us that we have this sort of inherent sort of crystalline properties built into our bodies that allow us to transform and pick up and transmit frequencies and change them from one frequency to another. The net result is that we can just do amazing things. And I just want to show you, some of these sessions that we've done in the past just to show you what this looks like. I mean, here, you might have seen this one before. I've showed it in some of my slideshows. We have the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and then the person's able to draw it almost perfectly. And they don't see the picture ahead of time. It's hidden in a folder. This is one of my favorite examples also. It's the Washington Monument, and there you see at the bottom, the person has literally drawn, I'll hold it up so you can see it, the George Washington Monument. I mean, they did this in a matter of a few minutes, and of course, I'm astounded too, like anyone, even though I'm used to this. Here's a famous one that Ron Russell did once. It's a picture of a rocket ship, and here is his rocket, So, I mean, the first time you see this, you think, it's got to be some sort of trick. I mean, how could someone do this without seeing the picture ahead of time? But we know this has been tested so many times under double-blind circumstances and so forth, that a human being is actually able to remotely or resonantly view distant objects. Here's a picture of a race car, and the viewer draws the picture of a race car, another session done by Ron Russell, and it really shows us that if we get out of our own way, and this is really the big take-home message here, is that if we get out of our own way and just let these resonant processes work, these very subtle, quiet, resonant processes, we actually can do a better job than if we're trying really hard, because the conscious mind doesn't have these abilities. It's just some sort of natural, automatic process. Here's people rowing in a canoe in a lake, and there the person gets, a boat on the water and goes on to describe in their summary all the things about water and being in a boat and so forth, and lakes and all this. So, I've got countless examples of how this works, and you've seen these before. So, the point is, this is something that's trainable, something we can learn how to do. And the big take-home message from all this, as one of my biology teachers used to like to say, the take-home message is that these processes work better if you just simply get out of your own way and let them happen. Okay, it's very important. This isn't something that you need to learn how to do. You need to remember how to experience your own resonance, because all of us, because of the domestication process we've been through by being in a society, it's just sort of necessary for a society to work in some ways, and yet the cost is it's kind of destroyed our own inner connection to our own resonance, which has prevented us from acting like the natural crystals that we are, to be in touch with our resonance and sort of spontaneously allow information to move through us so that we kind of spontaneously, naturally get the solutions to the challenges that we face every day. And so that's what the resonant viewing process is about. Again, it works better when you think about it less. It's actually more a process of learning to remember something you used to know how to do than it is learning something new. And so it's a lot of fun. It's really interesting, and I think you'll find once you kind of get in contact with your own resonance, you're going to see a lot of other consequences throughout your life in terms of expanded creativity, expanding understanding, abundance, and so forth. Okay, so in the next video, what we're going to do is a little mini RV session using what we call our UniView RV procedures, which are basically a boiled down, distilled down version of the longer set of procedures that we usually use. But in UniView, we can basically get the essence of the system in just a few minutes of instruction, and you're going to do a session right at home or wherever you are. So it ought to be a lot of fun, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, and we'll see you later. Bye.